Alright, so this is going to be another plan a trip with me moment, video, whatever you want to call it. So basically, my best friend and I are at it again. We are very much contemplating going back to Washington, D.C., to see the sights, see any changes, and yes, of course, in the middle of this lovely, lovely pandemic. The little difference that I'm finding in planning trips lately is honestly going straight to Google. So now whenever I'm trying to decide on a destination, um, you know, during the current situation, I just go to Google because we like things are always changing lately with the pandemic. The rules, requirements, and stuff like that. So, my biggest suggestion to anyone traveling right now is to seriously just go to Google. To type in anything, to type in, what's it called, where you want to stay, requirements, and of course, just to see what new attractions have popped up. So as you can see here, considering the fact that me and my best friend have already been to DC before, I wanted to jump right in and try to find us a place to stay that's reasonable. A lot of things that I've been noticing lately in regards to traveling has been the increase on pricing. The last time we were in Washington, D.C., we did stay at a hotel. It was a great hotel. I don't remember off the dome what hotel it was. I think it was a Hyatt. When we do stay at hotels, we tend to stay at either the Hilton or the Hyatt. So, I jumped right in and researching Hyatts in the area to try to get a feel of pricing. We still haven't confirmed an exact date yet. We know it'll be this up and coming summer. We just don't know when exactly it is. So I just spitballed a date to put in just to kind of give me a general idea of what the pricing may be. We do travel during the weeks because me and my best friend were able to get during the weeks off. So our usual go-to travel start dates are usually Sundays, and then we try to come and return back on Saturdays. So I always just try to pick, the furthest date around the timing of when we generally travel, if that makes sense. So I picked the dates of a week of late June, and this is a Hyatt place, which honestly is a reasonable amount per night, which is only $179. What we've noticed is most Hyatts and Hiltons, they always tend to come with sofa beds lately. I really don't know why that's becoming a thing. So naturally, I look for 2 queens. Of course, so me and my best friend can have our space. And I was looking at hotels that are close in proximity to the National Mall, because that's ideally where we're going to be most of the trip. Around the National Mall, around those types of attractions. Whenever I'm looking at hotels, I want to see how far it is from these locations that we plan to, explore and have fun in. I always like to see how far it is from the airport as well, just to kind of get an idea on how much and how far away everything is. Because when you do that, if you plan on renting a car or taking a lift or walking, this gives you a general idea of how much to put aside for Lyft fund, Metro fund, or your shoe fund. Because, if you're going to be doing a lot of walking, you always need a good pair of shoes. So this Hyatt place is not that far from the airport, which is pretty awesome. The last hotel we stayed at when we went about back in 2018, it wasn't that far from the airport as well. I'm just kind of thinking that, the airport's not that far from that area. But still, I like that because sometimes when you get to looking up hotels, you notice that everything that's inexpensive tends to be farthest away from the attractions and tends to be farthest away from the hotel. So, yeah. So that's the one thing I like to do is just check in Google Maps and see how far everything is, to see how far this hotel will be from just the main attractions that we're going to be going to visit. I also like to see how far it is from the metro, which, as you can see, it's not that far from the metro station either. I also, which is something I didn't do the last time, which when you travel, you live and you learn. I also like to research how far it is from places that I really, 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 really am excited about going to go visit, like Mount Vernon. We didn't get a chance to go to Mount Vernon last time because, like I just said, we didn't realize how far it was, and we didn't plan to do that much out traveling. I think the farthest that we ended up going was to the Arlington Cemetery, the National Cemetery, I'm sorry. And that was an adventure of its own because, if I remember correctly, we took the train to as close as we could get to it, and then we took a lift, and the lift dropped us off like blocks away from the cemetery, which was hilarious because then whenever it was time for us to go back, we were able to just walk over a bridge to get to the Lincoln Memorial. Yeah, it was hilarious to figure all that out, but it was an adventure. But again, you live and you learn. Another thing I like to do is, like I said, just Google attractions in the area. Every trip I've taken so far, I've always done that. Just type in the city and put attractions to see what it is that particular area has to offer. So, like I said, I love to Google things like that because, especially right now, when you're Googling it, a little travel advisory pops up to let you know what you need to expect when you're traveling to that area. Like I said repeatedly, even though we went for a week back in 2018, places are always changing, things are always improving and growing and being added. And then also there's a lot of places that we just didn't get to go to because, shockingly, lack of time. Even with you being in DC for a week, which we were out there a full 5 days, one day, well, technically 6 days because our flight left later. We still didn't get to everything we wanted to get to. So this is kind of like another trip where we're take-twoing it. We did a take two in Florida this past summer and had a grand of an amazing time because, we weren't rookies anymore. This time we're not rookies anymore, so we're gonna go check out all the things that we missed out on in regards to DC. Even some museums we went to, we still missed some things because they were either under construction. So, like I was saying, another hack or tip that I suggest, like I said, is checking out the news tabs as well. With that being said, whenever we decided to go back to Washington, D.C., we didn't know that the Smithsonian of Air and Space is currently being redone, so that's going to be closed for a while. I'm kind of happy that that's being done because when we went, it just seemed like things could be improved. I don't know exactly what they're improving to it. I thought even with it being a little bit outdated, it was still a wonderful and beautifully done museum. But like I said, that's something if I had never Google searched, I would have never known, and then I would have been like a lot of travelers going out there expecting to go to the Air and Space Museum not realizing that it was closed. So with that being said, we already know right out the gate that we won't be going to that museum this trip. But thankfully, we've already been to that trip. We've already been to that museum. Another thing that I noticed about researching places nowadays is the whole decision-making process of being vaccinated and vaccination cards. If you aren't vaccinated and you want to travel somewhere, it's good to Google the restrictions so that way you know if by chance you need to get vaccinated or have some type of proof to be enabled entry. Like, for example, DC, they're starting to buckle down and require a proof of vaccination to do any indoor activities. So if you aren't vaccinated and you plan to go to DC and you just show up without doing any research, you'll be kind of bummed, because a lot of places are saying, hey, if you want to come in, you need to have your vaccination card. And some places are even going as far as saying you need to have your booster. So, but then there are some places who are saying you don't need a vaccination card, but you do need a valid negative test result, I guess you would say. That's the best way. That's the best way you could say it. So you need to have a proof of vaccination or a negative test thing. But returning back to finding a place to stay, like I said, the last time we went, it was 3 of us, and yeah, it was inexpensive for 3 of us, but I always like to get the most out of my trips, and that's not spending a bunch of money on a place that I'm staying basically at night, because me and my best friend, we always tend to be out and about all day, every day. Excuse me. So I wanted to check out Airbnbs because after my Washington, D.C. trip back in 2018, I started watching more vlogs, travel vlogs, and I noticed that D.C. has beautiful, well-done Airbnbs. Now, with that being said, when I looked at that time, they were inexpensive. But, of course, with the pandemic, things are a little bit more expensive. And with us now being seasoned Airbnb travelers, I kind of know what to look for and what my comfort level allows me to stay. With that being said, I did look at some Airbnbs in the area. They have, shockingly, not as many as I thought in the area. A lot of them are kind of on the outskirts with, like, deeper within the neighborhoods. I'm all for that because when we went to Boston and stayed in Everett, we stayed more in the neighborhoods. And with that being said, it wasn't for us. It made moving about each day a lot more difficult. Like, having to take a lift into the city became a hassle, especially when we were used to DC walking out the hotel, hopping on the metro, and taking a train in there. There was no way for us to really get into the city in a timely fashion when you stay deep in the neighborhoods. And then also when you stay deep in the neighborhoods, there's a lack of food choices. Like, yeah, there was a grocery store, but I mean, we were staying in Airbnbs and we didn't have a car. So I hope you understand what I'm trying to get at. So whenever I was looking through here and really trying to find a quality place for us to stay, one, I get it for the people who do live out there or are used to it. They had a lot of basement Airbnbs. I don't like that. It's just weird. I feel like, someone could be like creepily watching me as I sleep from the ceiling. Another thing I didn't like, there was a lot of ones where you shared. We learned we tried the share thing in Boston before, and it wasn't an issue. It was like a boarding house type of deal, and it was not an issue. It just creeped my best friend out towards the end because our hostess's wife, I guess, thought we left already and tried to enter our room when we were still in there. Kind of weird. So she has a no shared Airbnb policy in effect now, which I'm fine with. So it was just things like that. And then I did find one that was in the right location, wasn't too far, had a lot of food places, was beautiful, worth the money. It was like booked, or the pricing for the time we're thinking about going was ridiculous compared to just staying at a hotel, if that makes sense. But with looking for places to stay, you have to think about how you're gonna get there. I am a loyal Southwest flyer. I have had interesting experiences, but I've never had a terrible experience flying Southwest. Knock on wood. Right now, flights are, I don't even know how to describe it. Some of them are super cheap, like $149 one way nonstop is a steal. But then you have some that are like, was it like $500 one way? And I was just like, what? No. And then you have, as I said, that's ideal. That's the lowest I've ever seen. Round trip $297.95 during the summer. So, like, with that being said, I'm just like, to sit there and see all these, like, was it roller coaster prices? Like, I've never seen that before. Whenever, like, the last time we traveled to Orlando, round trip $366. When we went to Boston, round trip, I was like $349. Whenever we went to DC the first time, I think it was another $366. So I'm so used to seeing like a certain consistent pricing, and for it to be like $149, $244, $313, $432, $577. Like these, like these are like nowhere close pricing, where it's usually like a consistent $10 difference, $20 difference, and then like one or two flights that are like super expensive. I honestly don't know why. I mean, anyone who knows can care to share. But like, wow. Traveling right now is seriously is uncertain as I thought, but that doesn't mean, you can't sit there and use nips and tricks here and there to make it a good break away from reality. And that's what I feel trips are. Now, for me, my usual selections are cheapest as long as they fit in the ideal time frame that we like to travel, which we love to be the first flights out, within reason, of course. We love to be the first flights out, like a 7 a.m. flight, because then, we naturally get there about 4:35 in the morning, and that way our arrival days are left to still explore. When we get there, get used to the hotel, get used to the area, and all that fun stuff, which is why I always, like I said, see where we're staying at, to see what kind of things we can get into, explore, eat. Because the first thing we like to do whenever we arrive is get us some food. Because, of course, we're hungry and tired and a little bit jet lagged, depending on where we're going. And then we always like to have an early return flight. The same way. We like to leave around 7. Sometimes earlier than that, like doing a 6 a.m. flight is perfectly fine with us, because one, my friend likes to go ahead and head back to her original city, because she drives to visit me. So she likes to go ahead and get on the road for herself. And then also, the last time we were in DC, we got delayed by 12 hours. We were supposed to leave out by I think it was 10 a.m., but we kept getting delays because of the rainy weather. So we ended up not getting back home till 10, 11 o'clock at night, even after we missed our flight. So we really like to plan accordingly. We like to research everything as well as monitoring things. We also, ever since COVID, we like to read the terms of engagement just in case we do book a flight and have to cancel it. What would we need to do to get a refund? What we need to do to get credits and all that stuff. So, like I said, planning has definitely took a turn now that we have COVID to deal with. So I always just suggest people to plan accordingly and to do as much research as possible. Again, I hope this helps. I hope, no one has given up on traveling due to things and how they are nowadays. I always say be safe. I've traveled 3 times during the pandemic, and thanks for blessings and miracles, everything went okay and I was safe. Like I said, just plan accordingly, disinfect, mask up, and try to have fun. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Stay tuned for the next video.